The truck groaned over a deep pothole on the outskirts of Elijah, where abandoned vehicles and lost lives lined the road. Trevor gripped the dashboard, his eyes fixed on the rusted old diner and garage below. A scene turned nightmare as raiders pillaged and slaughtered survivors. "Stop here," Gustav murmured over the engine's hum. "Any closer and they'll hear us." Trevor slowly halted on the cracked asphalt, the oppressive silence thick with dread. Nordberg murmured, "Jesus Christ," his calm shattered by the gruesome chaos compared to Nashville. Trevor's gaze absorbed every detail, while distant childlike figures intensified his mix of hope and despair. "Staggered approach," Gustav commanded. "Anthony, take overwatch. Archer, cover the left flank. Trevor and I will move through the main car park." The team dismounted with deliberate, silent steps, under an acrid haze of smoke and burning stench. Archer readied his crossbow. Anthony adjusted his rifle, tension binding them together. Trevor noted 2 trucks in front of a roadside diner. One truck's open rear revealed armed raiders, one nonchalantly cleaning his nails with a hunting knife, another smoking as he eyed a corpse. "Those aren't survivors," Milton whispered. "That's an organized group." Trevor replied, "Raiders, preying on the innocent," locking his gaze on a second truck where 5 captured women and 2 teenagers huddled together. When Trevor recognized the boy's posture, stirring a spark of familiarity, Gustav cautioned, "Steady, we need more intel." Nearby, raiders stripped valuables from kneeling victims, one backhanding a sobbing woman into silence. Beside a ruined building, bound prisoners awaited execution on makeshift gallows, while a bonfire in the distance cast harsh light on burning flesh. "They're burning the bodies," Anthony murmured. "They're executing the leaders and likely planning more atrocities against the women and kids," Gustav added. Trevor and Gustav exchanged a resolute glance. The moans of approaching walkers reminded them that time was short. "They won't expect organized resistance," Archer noted. Trevor checked his weapon and, driven by guilt and desperate hope, announced, "We move in 5. Gustav laid out the plan. "Archer, circle behind the garage. Anthony, watch from the truck. Bobby and Harrison, you're with me. We'll create a diversion at the entrance and strike from different directions." Trevor declared, "I'm going for the kids." Nordberg joined him. "I'm coming too." Clint interjected, "What about us?" Gustav replied, "Carlos, Amy, and you are backup. Fill in the gaps if we falter." All nodded in agreement. Before they could act, a female prisoner broke free and sprinted across the gravel lot, her wild, tangled hair a symbol of desperate hope. That hope was shattered when a gunshot ripped into her back. She froze momentarily before collapsing from a second shot that split her head open. A raider flipped her body and fired 2 more ruthless shots into her chest, a grim promise of further violence. One raider guarded the remaining captives by the diner, while terrified women cowered, one sobbing quietly, another with a gun pressed to her temple. 2 raiders dragged the teenagers under the garage. A bearded man bound them, and in that brief glimpse, Trevor recognized a familiar face. "That might be my son," he whispered. Gustav cautioned, "We don't know that, Trev." "But his build, it could be Toby." "It could be," Gustav conceded. Gunshots shattered the tense silence as semi-automatic fire, screams, and the growls of approaching walkers merged. "They're getting careless," Archer observed. "Good for us," Gustav replied. Fixated on the boy, Trevor searched his features. After weeks of chasing rumors and false leads, it had to be Toby. "We need to move now before they kill any more," Trevor demanded. Milton protested. "We're outnumbered." "And desperate," Trevor shot back, nodding toward the advancing walkers. Taking in the grim scene, the terrified women, bound children, and blood glistening in the sun amid the raiders' cruelty, Trevor braced himself as gunshots, shouts, and the alarm of walkers confirmed imminent chaos. "Now," Gustav said, squeezing Trevor's shoulder with quiet resolve. Haunted by memories of failing Janelle and losing Toby in Nashville, Trevor pressed forward, determined not to fail this boy, whether he was Toby or not. As the group split into their positions and brutal violence erupted, Trevor moved closer to the truth, to salvation or heartbreak, resolved to wade through hell if it meant saving the boy. Gunshots thundered and bodies scrambled for cover as blood spat on cracked pavement. Trevor moved like he was underwater, each decision clear but quickly overwhelmed by chaos. A flash of a muzzle, a cut-off scream, and a sweeping blade, all blending into instinct. Gustav signaled with 3, then 2, then 1 finger, and they broke cover in unison. Trevor ducked behind abandoned vehicles, while Milton followed his lead with precise police training. Perched atop a truck, Anthony spotted a raider on the diner's roof clutching a scoped rifle. His heart pounded as he took aim. Early shots missed, but a surge of adrenaline steadied his aim. His bullet found its target and the raider staggered before plunging to a fatal descent. Nearby, Trevor identified another raider, a red bandanaed man with a matted beard and a shotgun, as walkers advanced. Waiting for the right moment, Trevor fired 2 center-mass shots. The attacker slumped silently, his shotgun clattering, and Trevor quickly retrieved it. Across the lot, Archer crept behind a garage. He soon confronted a clumsy raider wildly swinging a machete. With fluid precision, Archer unsheathed his katana and decapitated the attacker, the head tumbling and blood spattering against the wall as he pressed on unflinchingly. The battle grew fiercer. Automatic fire drove Trevor behind a battered Volkswagen. After counting 9 shots, he rolled out and fired at a raider reloading, sending a burst of red across his chest. Suddenly, a gunshot echoed, hitting Carlos on the left side of his head and causing him to collapse instantly. Amy cradled him, repeatedly murmuring, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." Nordberg and Anthony both had the impression that the shot had come from behind. And then they noticed Clint standing there, his face showing confusion, nervousness, and guilt. They knew they would have to figure this out later. "Trevor, on your left!" shouted Gustav as 3 walkers advanced. The nearest, a skeletal figure in tattered cloth, reached out with blackened fingers. While Trevor hesitated with his pistol, Gustav stepped forward. His machete decapitated the closest walker, while a swift blade and a knife sealed the fate of the others. "Clear, move up," Gustav ordered, but suddenly a rifle burst shattered the moment. Gustav was struck in the shoulder by a raider from behind a gate. Harrison fired 3 precise shots in quick succession, killing the assailant. Even as Gustav clung to consciousness, he muttered defiantly, "It's just a scratch." Bobby rushed to his side, but soon froze from panic as walkers closed in. Anthony abandoned his truck, fighting off the undead with his knife while tending to Gustav's wound. "Missed the artery. We need to stabilize before you lose too much blood," he instructed. Gustav, pale but determined, replied, "Go, we'll catch up." Torn between saving restrained children and his own survival, Trevor turned toward the diner where shattered glass and screams painted a scene of chaos. Milton exchanged gunfire near a dumpster as inside a woman's scream pierced the noise. A burst of semi-automatic fire struck a car, forcing Trevor to duck again. The battle raged, a relentless mix of gunfire, screams, and moaning dead. Hunkered down behind cover, Trevor and Nordberg dodged a hail of bullets as Milton spotted 6 to 8 walkers staggering closer, too many to fight off. With adrenaline surging, Nordberg grinned and declared, "I've been waiting for a time to use this." He produced a Molotov cocktail, lit the rag, and hurled it with precision into the gravel lot. The bottle shattered on impact, erupting in fierce flames that formed a barrier against the advancing walkers and engulfed 2 wounded raiders. The fiery throw, marked by perfect timing and precision, stood as a memorable turning point in the battle. Trevor fought his way through the exchange, determined to free the tied children despite the carnage all around. A dark-haired boy pulled him forward, offering a glimmer of hope that this child might be his son and his redemption. With his warm knife in hand, he battled raiders and walkers alike, evading a raider swinging a rusted bat by striking the man's jaw and dispatching a walker, a woman in a ruined postal uniform, with a single precise stab to the eye. Only a few yards away, a teenage girl watched him with equal parts hope and suspicion. The boy she accompanied reminded him of Toby with his dark hair and build. "I'm going to cut you free," he whispered, slicing through her zip ties and urging both children to run to the military truck, where his people provided cover. When the boy turned, his features and soft southern drawl confirmed he wasn't Toby. Trevor's heart sank, but he pushed on, commanding, "We need to move, stay low and follow me." As the teenagers helped one another, they edged towards safety amidst sporadic gunfire. Milton and Harrison exchanging fire at the lot's entrance, while Archer and Harrison covered vulnerable positions. "On my signal, run for the military truck," Trevor instructed. Despite the girl's hesitation over her mother, Trevor promised, "We'll get her too, but first you need to be safe," and signaled Anthony to help. Pushing the children forward, he led them low across open ground until a near-miss shot forced him to slide them behind an abandoned car. A raider with a raised rifle emerged, only to be silenced by Harrison's swift shots. Once inside the truck, Trevor quickly checked for injuries, ordered the doors locked, and told them to remain hidden until it was safe. As the boy murmured, "You came for us. No one comes for anyone anymore," Trevor learned their names, Stevie, Harper and Janie, and vowed to protect them. Rejoining Milton at the garage, Trevor found a female raider, the one behind the execution of the male hostages, holed up in an aging diner. Her blood-matted hair and wounded pride marked her defiant last stand. Nordberg assessed the scene with grim professionalism as she opened fire, forcing Trevor and him to duck behind a Volkswagen. In a swift, synchronized move honed by practice, they rose together, their shots striking her in the chest. Glass shattered around them as her body crumpled, ending the standoff. As the confrontation concluded, 3 captive women took advantage of the distraction. One struck the raider in the midsection, another disarmed her, and a silver-haired woman drove a jagged shard into her shoulder. Seizing the moment, Nordberg charged, grabbed the injured raider by the hair, and dragged her to makeshift gallows where the hooded captives waited. "You fucking bitch, your time has come," he snarled, as he slammed her onto a battered wooden chair and tied a rough rope around her neck. Despite her feeble pleas about her crimes and ties to a larger group at the Twin Peaks Mall in Elijay, he left her dangling after breaking one leg of the chair. She died an ugly, but deserved death. The group stood frozen in a mix of detachment and horror. Gustav, injured yet steadfast, met Trevor's gaze, each silently acknowledging the brutal cost of survival. Silence fell over the aftermath. Bodies of raiders, walkers and bystanders lay where they had fallen, while survivors gathered by the diner with faces hardened by necessity. Trevor watched from a distance, noting injuries and mental states with his unyielding cop's instinct. Gustav limped over, his right hand on a bandaged shoulder and left still gripping his pistol. "They're done," he said quietly. "The last 2 tried to run east but hit the Walker herd." Trevor simply nodded. His eyes drifted to the rescued teenagers, Stevie and Janie, now with adults presumed to be their parents. Family reunions as rare as myths these days. "We should introduce ourselves," suggested Gustav, gesturing to the group. Trevor appreciated his measured approach, even as he worried about Carlos's injury, Nordberg's grim execution of the raider, Klintz's shady actions during combat, and his own internal emptiness. The survivors formed a loose circle near the trucks, some sitting on crates, others tense and alert. As Trevor and Gustav approached, conversation died away. A bearded man stepped forward, arm around a graying-haired woman and another on Stevie's shoulder. "I'm Elliot Harper. This is my wife Susan and our son Stevie. We were heading to Atlanta from Nashville when these bastards ambushed us." Each name now carried the weight of trust in a dangerous world. A heavy-set man with soft hands added, "I'm Chuck Riviera. I was with Mira here." He gestured toward a pragmatic woman whose eyes had seen too much. Nearby, a silver-haired woman clutched a teenage girl. "I'm Janie Barboza, and this is my mom, Sheila," the girl said, her voice mature beyond her years. For a brief moment, introductions felt normal, a respite from the carnage. That calm shattered when Amy's voice cut through the air. "He did it on purpose," she declared, kneeling beside an unconscious Carlos as Anthony fought to stem blood from a deep head wound. Every eye turned to her as traces of tears and her husband's blood marred her face. Across the clearing, Clint stood impassively, deepening the unease. "Carlos wasn't shot by a raider," Amy continued, voice thick with hurt and confusion. "He was shot by him." Tension grew as Clint stepped forward with raised hands. "It was chaos," he began smoothly, though uncertainly. "Bullets were flying. I didn't—" "Don't lie," Amy snapped. "Tell them what you told me last night." After a heavy pause, Clint muttered, "They should know anyway." As he spoke, Harrison cautiously moved toward his weapon while the others exchanged conflicted glances. Amy steadied herself. "Carlos and I came to Jasper. We're married." She paused to glance at her husband's still form, her turmoil deepening. "But Clint and I—" Before she could finish, Clint cut in bluntly. "We've been sleeping together for months." His words sent shockwaves. Several newcomers flinched. Trevor noticed Milton clench his weapon. Everyone wrestled with betrayal and regret. "It started as just sex," Amy continued in a hollow tone, bitter and remorseful. "Then Clint started talking about us being together if Carlos wasn't around. I thought it was just talk." "I meant every word," Clint replied coldly, "and today I finally acted." A heavy silence fell as Clint continued. "It was all part of my plan to get Amy. The plane crash wasn't an accident. I rigged a smoke grenade by the engine to force a landing. Carlos was meant to be left behind. Gustav stepped forward in disbelief. You deliberately crashed the plane? Clint shrugged casually. No, I planned a soft landing. I needed chaos, and when that Walker herd appeared, nature helped. But then you all showed up. Trevor's gaze hardened as he stared at Clint's cold expression. You could have killed us all while we rescued you, Anthony said as he returned to tend Carlos. For what? For his wife? For a chance at happiness, Clint replied curtly. Milton advanced, pistol drawn and aimed steadily. Give me one reason not to put you down right now. Wait, Trevor yelled, conflicted. This guy's a pilot and the plane's fine. He's valuable. He's a murdering piece of shit, Nordberg retorted, moving his pistol closer. Clint laughed disturbingly. Who the hell are you to judge me? You're all living with this asshole. He gestured vaguely at the group, then pointed at Gustav. You'd be shocked to know you're running with the butcher of Ramada. The accusation hung heavily as Trevor's eyes darted to Gustav, whose expression hardened into that of a soldier despite his wounds. What are you talking about? Trevor demanded. Ask your friend, Clint said with an unsettling smile. Ask him about Ramada, Afghanistan, 2021. Ask why they called him the Butcher. Trevor looked uneasily at Gustav. What's he talking about? Gustav exhaled slowly. I was accused, court-martialed even, for war crimes in Afghanistan. It was all over the media when the outbreak began. I'm surprised none of you knew. What the hell did you do? Bobby yelled. Shut up, for fuck's sake, Harrison bellowed. Everyone in the military knew he was under prosecution. I trusted him. He saved my life as he did some of yours. Then Clint let out a mocking laugh. So you're really going to shoot me for trying to kill a Mexican wife-beater? Trevor's eyes flickered to Amy, pleading yet conflicted. Did he beat you? No, Amy replied, voice trembling with wounded pride and remorse. But he's a Texican, half Texan, half Mexican. He's volatile, passionate. Yes, he pushed me, but only after I hit him. We've been together since high school, and when I met Clint, I thought some wild fun might distract me in this collapsing world. Tears streamed down her face. Clint scoffed. Great, now you hate me. I did this to be with you. Amy replied sternly, if he dies, and then you die. Sounds fair enough to me, Nordberg added. We can't be taking people like this into our group, pilot or no pilot, Bobby interrupted. Trevor, now taking charge with concerns over Gustav's health and history, removed his pistol and aimed it at Clint. Best behavior or I'll kill you myself. Clint curled a wry smirk at Amy. She glanced to Carlos and knelt beside him, and there we stood, each torn by loyalty, guilt and uncertainty, caught in a maelstrom of betrayal and conflicting desires where right and wrong blurred. This Butcher of Ramada's story you can explain in the morning. Let's get Carlos settled, Trevor murmured, exchanging a frustrated look with Gustav. Gustav nodded. I'll tell you later. Right now, Carlos is stable, Anthony stated, but he has internal bleeding in his brain. He needs rest for 4 to 5 days and we can't transport him. We'll have to stay here until he recovers. Okay, we'll bunk here while the others at Blue Ridge hold on, Trevor decided, taking charge. Gather supplies from the raiders and trucks, food, ammunition, medicine, whatever you can find. No one questioned him. Not even Gustav, who remained lost in thought over Clint's accusation. The survivors dispersed with practiced efficiency, leaving Trevor and Gustav alone amid the lingering tension. Is there any truth to his words? Trevor asked softly. Gustav looked troubled. There's always some truth. It's just not what people assume. I was finally getting my chance to speak up when the outbreak hit, and now I'm just trying to get by. Before Trevor could press further, Gustav went to help Anthony with Carlos. The matter was postponed, but not forgotten. Soon, Bobby and Harrison returned from a sweep of the diner. Nothing in there, Bobby grumbled. It's completely empty. The diner's silence was broken only by echoing footsteps. Archer, calm and confident, said, Check the house at the rear. You might find something. His assured tone was a beacon amid uncertainty. Trevor and Anthony followed his advice, creeping through the overgrown backyard to a modest house behind the diner. In an under-roof garage, they discovered a stash of 20 cans of food, a rare glimmer of hope. Inside the main room, they noticed an old trapdoor. Darkness beckoned below, from which the disturbing moans of walkers emerged. Anthony descended into the blackness with Trevor's flashlight casting a wavering circle of light. Confronted by 3 walkers, Anthony fought with determined, blur-like movements, eventually uncovering a cache of 40 food rations and some basic ammunition. Outside, Nordberg stumbled into a dim green shipping container behind the garage. Frantically rifling through dusty boxes, his heart pounded. His hand brushed against something unexpected, a sandwich wrapped in aluminum foil. He unwrapped it only to recoil in horror. A hamster between slices of moldy bread. "Who the hell would eat a hamster?" he muttered. Before he could recover, 4 walkers shuffled in. Trapped, he fought desperately, dispatching 3 with brutal precision. But the 4th lunged, its claws tearing into his flesh, leaving fiery trails of pain on his face and head. Collapsing to the floor, Nordberg clutched his face, his fate imminent. Anthony rushed to his side and with grim determination performed a minor surgical procedure to excise the infected skin. The operation saved Nordberg's life but ruined about 30% of their medical supplies. Anthony helped Nordberg into the diner and told him to rest. The stressed group then retreated inside to clean up the dead and prepare their new shelter for Carlos's recovery. Trevor's thoughts churned. If Carlos wakes up, how on earth are they going to navigate this Clint and Amy mess? Inside the diner, the survivors surveyed the scene, bodies cooling in the afternoon sun, and a ragtag group gathering what they could to persevere. They had saved lives and eliminated threats, even as new ones emerged, like the raiders at Twin Peaks Mall waiting for retribution. Tomorrow would bring more challenges: Gustav's past, Carlos's uncertain future, Clint's betrayal, and the relentless search for Toby that drove Trevor on. For now, survival meant seizing the next hour, the next mile, the next breath. To be continued. Thanks for watching Session 2, Act 2 of our Walking Dead Road to Redemption campaign. Upon the successful rescue of the survivors and securing of the diner and garage at LJ, the group found the following items: 47 rations of salted meat, 40 rations of tinned food, 2 radio components, 2 lockpicks, 1 compass, 1 toolkit, 1 standard rifle, 1 assault rifle, both poor quality, 2 cars, both with full tanks of gas, 1 fuel tanker with 200 liters of gas in its cargo, 1 light truck with half a tank of gas. They rescued 2 men, 3 women, and 2 teenage children. They are Elliot and Susan Harper, their son Stevie, Chuck Riviera and his girlfriend Mirabello, Sheila Barboza and her daughter Janie. Trevor had a huge session thinking he'd found Toby, and it could have been if not for a dice roll. Provided outstanding leadership in the absence of his injured and now somewhat scrutinized Gustav. Gustav was broken by a raider's gunshot, and while stabilized had to roll to handle his fear, which he succeeded. He had it disclosed that before the outbreak he was being court-martialed for war crimes, and the media had labeled him the Butcher of Ramada for his conduct in Afghanistan. He will have to iron this out with the group in the next session to win back his leadership. Bobby had a quiet session due to both of his anchors being back at Blue Ridge. He found himself gripped by fear and stress for most of the session. His moral compass was much needed at times, however. Nordberg lost part of his face after being attacked and struck by a walker. He also brutally executed the last raider by hanging. He too rolled to face his fear and succeeded. Anthony exchanged multiple shots with a raider on the roof of the diner. The group learned to never give a scientist a sniper rifle. He did, however, provide valuable support to Bobby when he was frozen, and then aid to Gustav. Archer shone through again as to how much of an absolute badass he is, decapitating a raider and providing high-level support to the group on multiple occasions. Harrison was solid, but in the background most of the session. From Session 2, Act 1, they rescued Clint, Carlos, and Amy from the plane. They discovered that Clint was having an affair with Amy, Carlos's wife, and during the combat at the diner, Clint tried to murder Carlos. Due to his value as a pilot, the group discussed at great length of whether to keep him or kill him, ultimately deciding to let him stay, for now at least. This will make Session 3 very interesting, especially should Carlos recover from his wounds. The group discovered a strange African-American lady with dreadlocks walking with the undead. She left them puzzled on who she was and where she was going. After both sessions, their faction is now made up of some 27 people, 10 at Blue Ridge and 17 at the diner at LJ. Blue Ridge is at maximum capacity, and the diner and adjoining buildings can accommodate up to 30. Both havens have defense rating of 2, basic tin can alarms and light metal and wood planks for barricades. Blue Ridge has threat level 0 due to its remote location, while the diner is threat level 1. Next session, the group will have to decide on what they want to do next. Either go after the remaining raiders at the mall and perhaps get a much safer, secure home, or continue to navigate the Clint, Carlos, and Amy saga and taking them to Jasper. Issues they still face is, despite the rations found, the new additions have caused LJ to only have food for 4.6 days. But Carlos needs 4 days rest and rations to recover. By the time he's ready to move, they will be almost out of food again. What will they do next? Thanks for watching.